if you're like me, you probably started your sneaker journey with Nike and Air Jordan. I had the Retro 1, I had the Retro 12, I had the Retro 13. And, they kind of just get outdated as you grow older. They don't really have a refined look. They're very loud. The colorways are usually very out there. Not to say that New Balance doesn't do that too. But, I'm not going to become a professional athlete. I have no business wearing basketball shoes. And I much rather wear something that's comfortable and that makes sense to wear on a daily basis, and that's what made me gravitate towards New Balance recently. So, the first pair that got on my radar was the 990 V3. Love that shoe. Still probably my favorite silhouette. But it got me thinking 990 V3. I wonder what's the big deal with the original 990 and the 990 V2. And then I also know about the models that come after the 990 V3. So I wanted to break down not really the history, but just the style and how New Balance has been developing in the recent years and what we're likely to see in the upcoming years. So this is just kind of a breakdown of the 990 series and what do I expect to see in the future from New Balance, and also how it's developed from the 990, the original one, which we'll call the V1, all the way to the 990 V6, which is the newest one that's out today. So here we have the 990 V1. This is actually the Carhartt collab. Very nice shoe. It's not overly designed, seems pretty light, looks a little thin, but that's fine. It's probably breathable. Personally, I've never owned this exact New Balance, but I have had a lot of pairs that are very similar and I like them. But from experience, I know they're not really that comfortable. If you see there's just this kind of, that divide where the sole and the actual material of the shoe meets, I found that my toes tend to almost roll over it. It's almost like you're walking a little bit on planks. It's not the most comfortable shoe, but it makes sense. It was made in 1982. Um, to my knowledge, it retailed for $100, which in 1982 is very expensive. This was considered a luxury sneaker, which is funny because when you think about New Balance today, it's definitely expensive, but luxury isn't the first word that would come to your mind. It's definitely more of a running shoe, more of a comfort shoe, maybe even a gym shoe, but definitely not luxury. When you think luxury, you think about those Air Jordan collabs and Louis Vuitton and all those designer collabs, but New Balance is what comes to your mind. So it's just funny to think that the 990 series started as a luxury sneaker. Here you got the 990 V2 from 1998. They still come out with colorways to this day, and in my opinion, I'm just not a big fan. Shoe looks overworked in every way. It's like an overgrown 990 V1. It looks twice as thick. The sole is twice as thick. The leather looks a lot thicker. The air bubble, I just don't like. It's an outdated look in my opinion. Makes sense because it was the late 90s. So this was probably new technology back then. The tongue is too big. I'm not a big fan of all the text on it. Just kind of looks out of place. And overall, I think it's a shoe that definitely didn't age well. It might have been really cool when it came out, but in my opinion, it didn't age as well as any other shoe in the lineup, minus the V5, which we'll talk about soon. But definitely one of my least favorite of the 990 series. So here's the 990 V3, and it's, in my opinion, the holy grail of the 990 series. Originally came out in 2012, and it just has the most timeless design. It's not overworked. It's not underworked. I really like how there's a blend of mesh and leather on the shoe, not just in the toe box, but also on the sides of it. As you can see, there's a mix of mesh and leather where the ankle is. And I'm just a really big fan of the design. It's a pretty light shoe, but it's still sturdy. It's not too firm when you put them on. It's definitely one of the most comfortable of the 990 series, and it's just a timeless piece that ages very well, looks good in a pair of jeans, looks good in a pair of sweats. You can work out in it, and it's definitely one of New Balance's, if not New Balance's, most timeless piece, and my personal favorite. So here's the 990 V4 that originally released in 2016. Overall, a very nice shoe, but obviously it's going to be very nice when it takes 85% of the 990 V3 design and just pastes it onto a new shoe. The only new difference I really see here on the V4 is the tongue. You've got that American flag emblem on it. And it's cool. I don't mind it, but I think it kind of sticks out and it doesn't really look, as classic as the 990 V3. And I think that's why it hasn't aged quite as well. It's still pretty timeless because it's so close to a 990 V3. But if I had the choice to choose between the two and they were the same price, I'm going to go with the 990 V3 every day. Now, up to the 990 V4, the only 990 shoe that I dislike from the series is probably the V2. Just looks a little bit too overworked. But then you get to this hunk of shit known as the 990 V5, and you start to appreciate the 990 V2 so much more because I don't know what they did with this shoe, but it's like a 990 V3 mixed with a 990 V4, but dumbed down to look like it was made at a dollar store. Honestly, it's just it's shittier in every way. The New Balance logo looks cheaper. It's like slightly thinner. The leather is less complex. The holes on the toe box are just, it's a simpler design. It just looks like a dumbed down version of the V4. The sole looks a little thinner. It's still got the end cap, but obviously I think end cap's been around since the mid '80s, so that's not an impressive thing to have on a shoe anymore. And it's kind of like a de-evolved version of the 990 V4. It's basically the first time in the 990 series where New Balance takes a step back. Now, I'm sure it's a comfortable shoe. It might even be more comfortable than the V4, but it just doesn't look good to me. It's not a stylish shoe. It's like a dad shoe that still, it looks so much like a dad shoe, it doesn't even meet the criteria of that trend. It's like, it's so ugly, it doesn't meet the ugly shoe trend. It's too ugly. And yeah, I don't think they did a lot of colorways for this. I can only remember there being a gray and a black pair. There's probably a navy pair, but I don't think they released this like they did with the 990 V4 and the V3 and the V2 and the V1. I don't think this one caught on, probably because it's just a really ugly shoe, at least in my opinion. Now, if there's 990 V5 fanboys out there, write it in the comments. I'm sure it's a comfortable shoe, but super ugly in my opinion. Something I would never consider buying. Now, the 990 V6 is one of my favorite 990s from the series. It originally came out in 2022, and when it came out, it didn't have a lot of hype. The hype kind of took a while to build. It's definitely continuing to build today. I think it's the most popular it's been since it came out, even though it hasn't been that long. There's been a couple collaborations that put it on the map, but we'll talk about that later. And overall, it's just a very well designed shoe. I think that's again mainly because it takes a lot from the 990 V3. The toe box is almost identical. It's kind of like a more modern version of the V3. There's end cap in the back. There's end cap in almost all the 990 models. The main difference for this one in terms of feel is it's a lot softer. Your foot almost sinks in the back of the shoe. With the V3 and the V4, it's a lot more of a firmer sole. With this one, it's a lot more forgiving. So if you're looking for a softer shoe, I definitely suggest the V6. But if you're looking for something that has the most support, I think a V3 or a V4 is probably better. And overall, I'm a super big fan of the design, probably just because I'm a V3 fanboy, so I'm going to be a V6 fanboy. But they have done some very cool colorways for the 990 V6, which we'll talk about soon. So listen, I'm not in the New Balance office. I don't know how hands-on Teddy Santis is. I don't know what his, creative process is. I don't know how much of the colorway, determination is based off his individual input. But what I can say is around the time he came in, we started getting a lot of very cool 990 V3 colorways. And I think that's what's really helped New Balance stay competitive against companies like Nike and Air Jordan, where they have shoes that are equally as trendy in the current day has any retro Jordan, if not more. And let's take a exploration into some of these colorways. So here's the Moonbeam. It's a 990 V3 that Teddy Santis designed. I think it's one of the first ones he did. If I want to say it's somewhere in 2022, I'm pretty sure. And it's just a super nice neutral beige colorway. And I think this is kind of where you start to see how New Balance is, starting to get their footing in competition with other companies like Jordan and Nike, where they have those colorways that really stand out and they're, unique shoes that people are going to notice as you walk by. And the other thing that makes this shoe so competitive, in the streetwear market is that not only is it very, very cool to look at based off the colorway, but it's also a very wearable shoe. It works with sweatpants, works with jeans. You can wear it in the gym. It's very comfortable. It's not like an Air Jordan 1 where it's going to hurt your feet. It's a really, really solid shoe and a colorway that I'm a huge fan of. Here's the Olive Leaf, another 990 V3 that Teddy Santis designed. And you can see it kind of has a similar colorway that Air Jordan and Nike chooses a lot, that skunk colorway, the green with the purple. And it's just very trendy, something that's relevant with streetwear and something that a lot of younger people, people in their teens and people in their 20s are going to gravitate to and notice. It's a very cool colorway, and it kind of just shows how they're really starting to get their footing here. They're really starting to become a brand that's capable of creating footwear that's not just known for being comfortable, but is known for, being trendy and looking cool. Raw Amethyst 990 V3 by Teddy Santis, another great example of using kind of a more neutral color set. Obviously purple's not necessarily neutral, but it's got that faded lavender look to it. And I think it's just a beautiful shoe, something that I really like to own. I'm pretty sure the resale value on these is pretty expensive. I want to say this also came out somewhere in 2022, and it's just a really nice sneaker. Love the design, love the colorway, and I would choose this over any retro that's come out in recent years. Something that's a lot more wearable and it's a lot more comfortable, breathable running shoe. Just perfect for everyday use. Now, again, I don't work for New Balance. I don't work for Teddy Santis. I wasn't in the office. I'm not 100% familiar with how much he actually played a role in what colorways got made and who designed what. But you can see when he came in 2022 and all these 990 V3 colorways start to get pushed, there's a peak in popularity for the 990 V3. And I think this is really where it started to compete with other streetwear sneakers like the retro Air Jordans and the Nikes that are popular, like the Dunks. This is definitely the moment where the New Balance starts to move from a casual sneaker that's just considered to be reliable and comfortable to a sneaker that's considered to be fashionable. As you saw in that previous graph, the 990 V3 was doing very good in 2022, but recently its popularity has started to go down. My guess is that there's starting to become some oversaturation due to all the constant colorway releases for the 990 V3. I mean, there's been so many in the last 2 or 3 years that there's definitely some buyer fatigue. Everybody already has a pair or two. They're struggling to justify buying another pair, and not a lot of people are looking for them. When I've seen 990 V3s designed by Teddy Sanchez that have actually gone on sale. So it's just an oversaturated market right now, and they've released too many different colorways for the 990 V3. So what does New Balance do to recover? They start to pivot and move that same kind of product press release, where they're doing these collaborations, but instead of Teddy Santis, they start to go to some celebrities. And the first one they land on is Action Bronson, who I'm actually a big fan of. I think he's a very talented rapper. And now I think he's actually a pretty talented designer too. And I'll be honest, this is the 990 V6 Baklava. It caught a lot of heat online. A lot of people think the color is hideous. I own a pair of these. I got lucky enough to actually hit them from the New Balance Canada website when they came out. That's in March of 2023. And I love the shoe. The build quality is really good. The leather on it's super buttery. It's really nice. That suede really pops. I like how it has the custom branding on it. So it says baklava on the tongue. And it's just overall a shoe that I like a lot. I think the colorway is really cool. And you can see if you look on the Google Trends for 990 V6, the first peak is in November when it originally released. But the second peak, which is even higher, is for this shoe, the baklava, right? So it peaks in March, which is right around the time that this shoe came out. And another issue that I want to mention is now the shoe is starting to see problems that other hype shoes see, So the 990 V6 is getting botted. Barely anybody could get their hands on this shoe because it's becoming streetwear. Everybody wants a pair of 990 V6s like they're a pair of retro ones now. If anything, it might be more, but that could also be due to the fact that there wasn't a lot of stock for this shoe. At least that's my assumption based on how quickly they sold out and how few people hit online. If you look through Reddit, if you look through YouTube, not a lot of people are able to get their hands on this, so much so that I know there's a lot of reps going around for them now. But I was lucky to hit directly from the New Balance Canada website. So now they start to do a similar thing that they did with the 990 V3. Now, I don't know if Teddy Santis is still the one who's dictating these colorways, but they come out with a lot of unique colorways for the 990 V6. It keeps it popular. And then in June of 2023, Action Bronson comes out with his second collaboration, the Lapis Lazuli, another colorway that I like a lot. Unfortunately, I didn't go for the shoe just because they're so expensive. 320 Canadian dollars would be the total price with shipping and taxes, and that's from the New Balance website. That's not even factoring what resale costs on these. And I know it's very expensive for the baklava. It's anywhere between 500 and 700 Canadian dollars for the lapis lazuli. I'm assuming it's something similar, but again, it's a colorway that really pops, and you see that they're starting to come out with colorways and palettes that are competing with streetwear brands. Very similar to something you'd see on a Dunk or a retro one, colors that are very captivating and something that somebody's going to notice if you're wearing them in public. It's a shoe that really stands out. And after the Lapis Lazuli came out, I really started to feel fatigue for the 990 V6 lineup. Too many colorways too quickly. Some of them just not interesting me at all. In the middle of the screen here, you see that yellow and green pair. To me, it just looks like piss. It's just, you can tell you've released too many colorways when the shoe's been out for barely a year and you're starting to release stuff like that. It's just, it's time to probably pipe down and come out with some other designs and take a break from this one and not oversaturate the market and kind of ruin the hype that was building up well when the baklava came out. It was the only cool colorway out there. Now there's too many colorways, and they're probably struggling to sell out of these. I know a lot of these sat. The gray and blue pair, that one went on sale. The pink pair went on sale. The yellow pair came out very recently, but I guarantee you it'll go on sale because there's no way it's selling out. That burgundy pair is also, it came out pretty recently, but it's probably going to go on sale too because there's just too many 990 V6s out there. And it's really going to kill the hype, and it's going to kill the popularity for this shoe, in my opinion, if they don't slow down soon. So here's very recent, November of 2023, which is this month. They came out with the Madison Square Garden pack. That's from this brand Keith, very popular brand. I don't know if it's pronounced Keith or Kith. I'm too poor to afford any other clothing, so I never took the time to learn how to pronounce it correctly. But two nice colorways, both inspired by New York teams. I think the one on the top is the Rangers, MLB team, and the one on the bottom is the New York Knicks. Not a big baseball fan. I am a big basketball fan. I really do like the Knicks colorway. But I'm not 100% sure what the retail price of these was. I know it was a little more expensive than the typical 990 V6, and the normal 990 V6 is already very expensive. So just a price that I wasn't willing to pay. And I'm also not a Keith/Kith fanboy, so I wasn't really too interested in getting my hands on these. But two nice colorways, but just it's already coming out at a time where there's too many colorways for the 990 V6. I think these weren't necessary, and that they should have slowed down on the colorways for the shoe, and that it's just oversaturated, and it's really kind of killed the hype for the 990 V6. And I think you can kind of see that New Balance is noticing that there's a issue with this new process they come out with, where they get a shoe and they know it's popular, and then they just pump the shit out of it with a bunch of different colorways. It's a good way to guarantee that people are going to get sick of your shoe if you release 50 colorways a year. So they're trying to come out with some more, unique models, some stuff that take the heat away from the V6 and the 990 line in general, so that there's other shoes that they can sell, and the V6 and the V3 doesn't over fatigue. And the 990 V4 is starting to fatigue too. I mean, there's a lot of different colorways coming out for the V4 that Teddy Santis has done. There's this green color that just came out that's actually, I like it a lot, but there's just too many of them, and I can't justify buying them for the price that they're at, especially when they're so easily available with all the colorways that are coming out. So here you've got the Warped, and now I'm going to show you some of the more unique colorways that have come out for it. This is its original colorway. If you look here, you can see there's the green and the blue colorway. For some reason, these didn't release in Canada. I don't know why. Maybe because they're ugly. And listen, I like ugly shoes. Honestly, I kind of want the green pair. I have the baklavas. These would match them. And they're just very unique. I like that they're trying something new, but this is almost too left field for me. I don't know the quality. I know these aren't made in USA like the V6s are, and it's almost just a little out there. And I'm scared that we're going to see with this lineup the same thing we've seen with all the 990 series lineups, and that's the constant colorway spit out. You already got a weird blue and a weird green color. I can't imagine what they're going to come out with in the next couple months if they keep up at this fire rate. Shoe's only been out for a couple months, and there's already a bunch of colorways for it, and it's not even a shoe design that a lot of people are saying they're a fan of. So you see, I almost feel a little bit of a panic from New Balance. They're trying to figure out what the next strategy is to stay trendy and to stay relevant in the streetwear market. And when I say stay trendy and stay relevant, I'm not saying that they've done a bad job as of recent. If anything, they've definitely improved their image in the sneaker industry. It's definitely a lot more of a trendy shoe than it's ever been considered. It used to be considered a shoe meant for your grandpa. And now with models like the 550, which they brought back, the 2002R, very popular sneaker, the Protection Pack, which has that distressed look, does very well. And in my opinion, is a shoe that's very nice. I'm a big fan of it. And you see that they're doing really good right now. They've been very trendy, and overall, New Balance has been very successful in the recent years. I'll show you another Google trend just for the New Balance brand in general. So if you search New Balance, you can see in the last 5 years, they've been growing pretty steadily. And I think this is definitely because they found a way to compete with the streetwear sneaker market. You need to have a lot of good releases that are captivating. You need to bring back retro sneakers that people were big fans of, like the V3, like the V4, like I'm sure they're going to do with the V6 10 years from now. And also they've learned that you have to have unique colorways that stand out. When you're dealing with Air Jordan and Nike, and all these other sneaker brands that have the ability to do all these other sneaker colors and these super unique patterns and these collaborations with all these different celebrities, you have to compete with that, and you have to partner up with celebrities like New Balance has been doing, and you have to come out with unique colorways like they have been doing recently. And it's definitely working for them. You can see on this graph it's been good, but I definitely anticipate that there's going to be some issues at the current rate they're going. There's too many colorways coming out too quickly. The 990 V3 is becoming oversaturated. The V4 is becoming oversaturated, which is crazy. You would have never thought the 990 V4 would have too many colorways out. A couple years ago, it wasn't really that popular of a sneaker. And then you got the V6, which has not been out for that long, and they're pumping out colorways left and right. They're doing collaborations left and right. Definitely seems like they're kind of oversaturating the market for all their current trendy sneakers. The 550s also hit a peak in popularity right now. Taylor Swift wore them recently, but I don't see them becoming more popular than they are now. So I don't know what's next. I think the Warped is a little bit of a flop. I don't think a lot of people are going to get that shoe just because it's a little bit too unique. And I'm curious to see what New Balance does next. Are they going to pull the trigger on the 990 series again, come out with the 990 V7 early? I doubt that. I think they're probably going to go back into the toolbox, look at something older, and re-release some retros and try to appeal to the streetwear sneaker market and find something that really resonates with that audience. So I hope you like this video, and if you guys like it, write a comment, give me suggestions. I'm really interested in doing more videos, and I'm looking on getting a webcam. I know it's probably annoying seeing that weird thing on the left side of the screen. That will be gone soon. I will have a webcam in my next video. And I'm just working on editing. I'm still new to all this. It's only my second video that I put together like this. At the current rate, it takes me a long time. So, like the video, suggest what my next video should be, and I promise you the quality is only going to go up from here. I know this is a little bit choppy. It's put together by me, and I'm going to get better over time. You guys just have to give me a chance. So I hope you like the video, and I'm looking forward to putting out more videos soon. I'll suggest I just came out with a video on the Carhartt Detroit jacket and my opinion on how that's developed. And if there's anything else related to fashion or related to anything that you think I might be interested in, leave a comment that I might do a video on it. So have a great day, guys. Have a great night. Subscribe, live healthy, drink water if you haven't drank water recently, and I'll talk to you soon.